Good evening and welcome. It's a poignant day in the history of India. Jayalalithaa, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, a woman who has led her state through 5 terms as 5 swearing-ins as Chief Minister, today is in a critical state in the Chennai Apollo Hospital. Our correspondents have been tracking every detail, every bit of information that we managed to get out of the hospital, but this is where things stand. She is critical, she is in intensive care, and she's having to use life support to stay alive. The Apollo Hospital says that everything is still being done. A specialist team from AIIMS is there on location with her, trying to do their utmost to treat her so that she recovers. But as we examine Jayalalithaa and get you the latest information from the ground, there is something about her that is causing the scenes that you see, visuals from Chennai tonight on your screens. People out there on the ground, aghast in grief. And that is the personality, some people call it the cult, of Jayalalithaa. Here's a report.
Tamil Nadu loves her. She's their Amma, the goddess who provides, the chief minister who protects.
She is identified as this reclusive figure who comes out, who is the Tamil Tai, which is mother. Her nickname was Ammu. She was known as Ammu when she began her career, when she was a younger person. That quickly changed over the years to Amma. The kind of policies that she has introduced, she is seen as this benevolent, I wouldn't say despot, although Tamil Nadu has seen many despots, but a benevolent figure who will always, under her shadow, you are always safe.
The intensity of adulation that Jayalalithaa receives from her supporters rivals that of any godman in the country. Elderly Anna DMK leaders, including the ex-Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, O. Paneerselvam, openly prostrating themselves before her, local leaders sponsoring special offerings in Tamil Nadu on the occasion of her birthday are common sights in the state.
The adulation Jayalalithaa enjoys in Tamil Nadu is beyond the reach of many leaders. The aura, confidence and in a way secrecy around Jayalalithaa is nothing short of a goddess. No wonder Kada line up in front of her with respect and love, not to mention the charisma she has.
Sometimes Jayalalitha's fans have taken her worship to another level. From tonsuring their heads to tattooing her name on their chest, a self-cremation to bring her luck, to crucifying themselves, her fans have expressed their love for her in varying degrees. According to an estimate, 41 people committed suicide during the period of Jayalalitha's incarceration. Of this, 14 cases were of self-immolation, while 15 people hanged themselves. So what explains the cult of a chief minister who people are ready to die for?
People have killed themselves for her. People have committed suicide. People have slashed their wrists, particularly when she had fallen ill, and she has actually put out appeals saying, "Don't do this," and I don't want you to kill yourself. So she has created a structure by which she has become the state. And it sounds like an exaggeration, I know, but when you become a cult figure of that proportion, then people are ready to die for you.
She's been described in many ways: mother, protector, despot. But what is undeniable is that Dr. Jayalalithaa is the tallest of Indian leaders. In fact, it is said that for Tamil Nadu, the national anthem of India can easily be tweaked, ending with an extra syllable: Jaya, 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 Hey. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Well, yes, we're outside the Apollo Hospital here at Greens Road in Chennai, where in fact we are joined by Dhanya Rajendran of the News Minute, Mr. Radhakrishnan of the Frontline, as well as my colleague Priyamada also joined me. Let's begin this entire discussion with just a few minutes dwelling on Jayalalithaa, the phenomenon that she is. You know, a person who started off as a dancer, went on to become a huge cine star, and then going on and excelling in the world of politics. Dhanya, you've interacted with Jayalalithaa a number of times. When you look back at the number of interactions and you look back at her entire career, what is the most remarkable aspect of her that you think has endeared her to lakhs and crores of people in Tamil Nadu?
Well, I don't know if we have interacted with her. We've definitely buttonholed her and tried to get interviews from her a couple of times. And a lot of us have been successful a couple of times. But her interactions with the media, I think, at least after most of us came into the industry, has been very limited. She hardly ever speaks to the media, but whenever she has spoken to us, she's been very cordial especially to women reporters. That I can definitely tell you. As far as her charisma goes, look, over the years she has cultivated this aura and she calls herself Amma. She says, I am your Amma. In the last election, if you see, she kept telling the cadre, she kept telling the voters that I am your mother, I will take care of you. So I think she has very consciously cultivated that sort of an image, and she's sort of remained mysterious, never goes to the media. She's not someone who's always interacting, telling us what's on her mind. She has maintained that distance, and perhaps by maintaining the distance, she's created that aura around herself.
Right, the mystery really fuels the enigma. That's what Dhanya really has to say. Priyamada, in your experience as far as covering Jayalalithaa or her government or the politics and the elections that you've watched very closely, what has struck you the most about Jayalalithaa and the phenomenon that she has created?
The number of times, as Danya rightly pointed out, she had very limited interaction with the media. But there have been occasions when we have met her and spoken to her. She's been extremely cordial, very well informed. She's very well read, and she knows the pulse of the people. That is something we have understood. Even in this election, she understood the pulse of the people. Of course, the opposition alliance did not work out properly, and that worked in her favor. And in fact, Radhakrishnan, senior journalist and political analyst, will be in a much better position to say, also draw comparison of Jayalalithaa that you saw in 1991, then 2011 and 2016.
See, the one thing that I noticed about her is that her ability to give out a virtual speech kind of extempore reply in answer to some question of yours, and then repeat the entire same thing word for word, translate it and speak it in Tamil, because there are always Tamil journalists who are wanting that bite in for their channels and of course for their media as well. This ability to completely assimilate an entire, not just paragraph, pages and pages of matter. In fact, once right outside the corridors of the Tamil Nadu Assembly, this was just after the last session of the 2006. She had completed 2001 to 6. She was chief minister. She was the outgoing chief minister. So I just happened to cross her path after the last session was over. I asked her what her main achievements were, and then she just started talking. And I literally ran out of paper. It was about 20 minutes by the time she finished. I ran out of paper. She asked for somebody to bring a piece of paper, and then I had to write the rest of it. Now that's not the story. Now 20 minutes she spoke to me, and then by then the other media journalists had caught up. The Tamil guys had come and they were like, Amma, tell us in Tamil. And the exact same things for 20 minutes she repeated in Tamil.
Absolutely. Even I have noticed that, mother, when I had interviewed her, she's so well informed, and also absolute discipline that we have witnessed, isn't it? When we were covering her events, Danya and I have covered many events together where she'll stick to the time and she exactly knows what to talk, and also have campaigning style. In fact, I want to discuss about that. I asked RK also about it. The difference that we saw between Jayalalithaa in 1991 and in 2011, Danya, what was the difference that you noticed? It was a completely different, the way she ruled also changed a bit.
I think 1991 you should direct that.
Yeah, you'll have to tell us how she transformed herself.
See, 1991 was when she was, I would say, a little bit immature. She was new to power. And then you had this whole thing of, you had the Devarams around her, the Sripals around her, who kept advising her that she has to keep away from people, keep away from media, keep away from everything, if you may. And at the same time, she cultivated some journalists. In fact, Chakravarti Raghavan, my chief of bureau in the Hindu, was one such person. And the moment there is any negative report about her government, her style of governance, even a word, the thing is that they take everything that is written so seriously that if a word is out of place, they'll take it not as a mistake, but as some kind of ploy to outrun or outsmart the government. So she'll pick up the phone and call up the chief reporter and engage in literally verbal duel, shout him down. Exact same thing Karunanidhi used to do for ages. I think she learned from him.
Right, that's a big question actually, that many wonder, what brought about this change from, an image of a vindictive politician, charges of corruption, to, someone who really came to exemplify in the, perhaps in today's day and age, the embodiment of welfare politics, something that, was more or less forgotten across the country. She came to exemplify the importance of it, post 2010 with Amma canteens, Amma cement, what have you, so many welfare schemes for children, for women. And that really, of course, at some level or the other, has ensured that she cemented her role, even breaking the jinx of anti-incumbency for the first time in 3 decades. Then.
Well, definitely, Madhav. In fact, when there were a lot of discussions by economists and others about how the coffers are being drained by the welfare schemes, she was actually reaching out to every household. In fact, the DMK also has a legacy of doing this. Remember, they gave color televisions during one elections. So they've also done it. In fact, they reached out to every house giving those color televisions. But she took it one step forward. She gave grinders, mixies. So every household had something which came, from her government, which had her face plastered all over it. And I think that was in the mind of voters last time when there was an absence of a wave during those elections, either in favor of the AIIMS or the DMK. I think that really worked for her, that she was able to etch herself into other people's memories by telling them that, look, this is what I've done for your household. So she's also played that card very carefully over the last 2 elections.
In fact, that brings to the next question, that is, a brand Amma was created, isn't it? But now that she's unwell, there are talks about interim chief minister getting elected. A vacuum will be created in the party. A second rung of leadership was never created in the AIIMS.
Yeah, but you have to also see that they've been in power for a very long time, 91, 2001, 2011 and now 2016, that is 15 and a half years. Pannirselvam has been around for about 10 years of those. He has been a minister, he has been leader of the opposition. And then you had a variety of D. Jayakumar, for instance, another politician who has been there from 1991. Quite a few of those politicians. Thambidurai has been in power in the state, now is the deputy speaker of the Lok Sabha. Now, with all these guys, yes, absolutely true. Nobody can match Jayalalithaa in her charisma and the kind of way that she can attract people around Tamil Nadu. But it's also a fact that all these guys are also seasoned politicians. They have known their, at least caste loyalties well. They've won elections repeatedly, at least 4 times, not in a row though. But all these goes to show that most definitely that the second rung which exists now, or we have to call them the second rung in any case because they are the leadership now. So more than capable of doing what they did, especially with, you've seen the by-elections, right? And they won all the 3 by-elections. That, I think, is indicator enough that they can more than handle themselves.
If I can just take off from where you spoke, in direct competition will be the DMK. Now, we understand it's about 30 or odd so MLAs that the AIIMS has in terms of its majority. You're seeing a DMK that's smarting under multiple crises, not just of its own credibility with scam taint, but also divisions within the party, who's going to succeed the party, all sorts of questions as DMK has. And certainly, if there is a change of guard as far as AIIMS is concerned, the DMK is surely going to exploit that politically, given the fact that they have a lot more faces who are perhaps more popular. How will the AIIMS be able to, ward off these threats from the DMK?
Well, I think as far as the succession in DMK is concerned, it's sort of settled now. It is going to be MK Stalin. There is no 2 ways about it. So the DMK, that way is decided. It's just the question of when is that going to happen? Is that going to happen immediately or not? The second question, of course, is what happens if there is a change of guard in the AIIMS. The DMK has been playing it very, very carefully when she was in hospital. In fact, we have reached out to the DMK many times asking that, would you try to stake claim to the government? But they've played it very carefully. I think in the case of any eventuality also, the DMK may not move in too fast. They will, of course, at some point of time, but no, it won't happen like it happened in Karnataka, where B.S. Yadurappa was tried, his government was being targeted repeatedly. I don't think it will happen for a couple of weeks, but definitely the DMK
There's
would.
always a possibility it could happen 6 months, 1 year down the line, isn't
But
it?
what about BJP, RK? Would you like to say how is the BJP central government is looking into all these issues? How much intervention do you think they will have in making decisions in the ADMK and the government here?
Yeah, there is, as you rightly pointed out, there is a leadership vacuum here. There is literally no one in charge right now at Apollo to make decisions on behalf of Jayalalithaa. She doesn't have next of kin. All these situations create a condition where the central government, if it chooses to, can intervene in whichever way it pleases, because you have a central, team of doctors who have come in here from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences and all of that. Put together, I think central government has some hand in deciding which way this whole thing will go, which way ADMK will shape up. And I, for one, believe that the BJP space in Tamil Nadu is what the ADMK is actually occupying now. The people who actually have been invoking gods. I mean, this is a party which was founded on the basis of, the fact that there is no God. It starts from the DK and DMK and ADMK, all these through the journey. But then by little, now you have a bunch of believers in the party, and in fact 90% believers in this party, and it is actually ripe. If the BJP wants, it can take over.
Well, absolutely. That's very interesting what you're pointing out, RK. And of course, we are seeing some kind of an activity that's happening in the Apollo hospitals through the day. In fact, Danya, why there is so much delay in coming out with the press statements, health bulletins? We have seen it's only the 14th health bulletin, if I'm right, has come out over the period of 76 days.
Well, Jayalalithaa has always been a secretive person, very reticent. Her government has been like that. She has been like that. So I really don't know why everyone was expecting that once she's admitted to hospital, they would come and give press conferences daily. That was never going to happen. She's always been a reticent person, and her party, her team behaves exactly like her. They know that she's not comfortable sharing information, so they don't do the same. And here, of course, there is Apollo's decision also as to how much information should be shared. We have seen in 1984 that when MGR was admitted to the same hospital too, they were not sharing much information then. And I think they've sort of continued with that even this time.
Right, of course, the information sharing is one important part of it. But really, of course, what are we looking at, in terms of the huge deployment of, the people, the supporters, the kind of popularity that she enjoys? Do you think the administration has been successful in preempting any kind of, violent situation or any kind of emotional outpouring that could perhaps possibly come out as a result of these circumstances?
Absolutely. I think the Tamil Nadu government, the Tamil Nadu police, again, it goes to show the efficiency of the government which is in place. I mean, you have a Director General of Police, Rajendran, who has already been a Commissioner of Police, also held a variety of posts both in the state and central forces. It is just not for up to him to, make sure law and order situation in the state is fine, but it's up to the Chief Minister to take the decision. Now, in the absence of the Chief Minister, O. Pannirselvam has taken the decision. He has given full powers to the Director General of Police, who has summoned every single available able-bodied policeman in the state who is not in a sick bed, and made every single one of them, including the CBCID and all these people who don't wear a uniform, to wear a uniform and stand a post. It's exactly what is required at this point of time. Rumors flying thick and fast, WhatsApp coming out with all kinds of nonsense, if you ask, without waiting for a confirmation from Apollo. Some Tamil channels putting out all kinds of rubbish news. So with all of this, I think the police is doing a commendable job. It is completely secure. Definitely Chennai and the reports that come in from other places, yes, indicate that the Tamil Nadu is right now fully secure.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying. We are seeing like how absolutely law and order situation is under control. In fact, you were mentioning about O. Pannirselvam, a personality about whom not much has not been discussed. He has been the Chief Minister 2 times, and now probably he might become the interim Chief Minister again. What is it about him that people do not know? I mean, what is that quality about him which made Jayalalithaa to repose faith on him completely?
I think number one is loyalty, number two is the fact that he belongs to the Deva community, and number three is that he literally came from the ranks. This is the original Chaiwala story. We've heard a lot of Chaiwala stories. This is the Chaiwala story here. It's a guy who owned a tea shop, who became the municipal chairman of Peregola municipality, and then the next thing he knows he's the central minister, a minister in the Jayalalithaa cabinet in 2001. And in that cabinet, you would see that this is the most inconspicuous guy, to the extent that we did not realize when Jayalalithaa was stepping down as chief minister that this is going to be the guy. There were lots and lots of names, including her number two at that point of time, and somebody like Nayanar Nagendran from Tirunelveli and all that. But finally, this is the guy who was selected, and we didn't have a clue.
Right. I want to take off from there. How do you see, Dhanya, all of this playing out in coming days? How will they work together? I mean, of course, there's no clear, chain or structure of command. We know that Shashikala, of course, being very close to Jayalalithaa, has obviously had a commanding position. Do you think she's going to be the first among equals, clearly, and she will be really instructing all of those advisors, whether we're talking about Sheila Balakrishnan, whether we're talking about, O. Paneerselvam or others? Do you think it will ultimately, the reins of power, as they call it, will be in the hands of Shashikala?
Well, till now it's been like that, but then we have to remember that Jayalalithaa is still there, which is perhaps also why everyone's ready to listen to Shashikala. In fact, I was asking an AIIMS leader today morning that would you all listen to Shashikala. He said it's been happening till now. We do not know what's going to happen tomorrow. But yes, she does have her own coterie. She has her own strength in the AIIMS. So that is going to go on, I believe.
Yeah, I also want to ask you, that question. What do you think Shashikala would need to do to position herself as a person, who has to take decisions? Because ultimately people need leaders. They need reasons to look up to a person. And do you think Shashikala, post whatever developments take place, how would she actually go about doing that, having seen how AIIMS functions?
See, the main point here is that Shashikala obviously has to take a lesson out of O. Paneerselvam, which I think she is doing. Right now, you would see that Shashikala is taking all the decisions because O. Paneerselvam is not taking the decisions, the ministers are not taking the decisions. They all come back to Shashikala, and Shashikala has been giving out the decisions. But she is doing so without being seen as taking those decisions. She wants O. Paneerselvam and the minister and the entire cabinet to be seen as taking all the decisions. That has been happening. That is the way to go forward. All that they require now is a vote catcher of the caliber and the stature of Jayalalithaa. That can really wait. I mean, 2019, of course, Lok Sabha elections are due, but I don't think, the South parties, your Dravidian parties have really bothered for a very long time about Lok Sabha elections. I would say that the 2021, before that, if they can come up with a name, with a person of the stature of Jayalalithaa, I think they should be fine. Only thing is that if they all realize their strengths, which I think they do, and they stay together, they're going to be here for the next 5 years.
Well, absolutely. As Radhakrishnan, who knows about the AIIMS and the political functioning in Tamil Nadu, rightly saying that there is enough time for AIIMS to stabilize its position. On that note,
Well, yes, we are here outside Apollo Hospital at Greaves Road in Chennai, where in fact Jayalalithaa, and a lot of suspense continues to remain about whether there would be any kind of announcement regarding her health. I have with us Priyamvada, my colleague, as well as Radhakrishnan of the front line. I'll begin with you, Mr. Radhakrishnan, regarding her health. So much that's been speculated, so much that has been said. A lot of doubts now about whether an accurate picture has been presented before the people of Tamil Nadu and the people of this country about Jayalalitha's health. Given the fact that it has been shrouded in so much of opacity, we've had barely a dozen odd statements, as Priyamvada was telling us, over the past 2.5 months.
In fact, I'm sorry, we'll have to cut across that the CPM leader, G. Ramakrishnan, who just met the AIIMS Supremo, Jayalalithaa, he's addressing the media. He might give us any kind of update about what's the situation inside the Apollo hospital, because everyone is waiting for some kind of update to come from inside the Apollo hospital. That the CPM leader, he's going to start addressing the media.
Wait and run. Ready? மாண்புமிகு நிதியமைச்சர் அவர்களையும் மற்றும் அண்ணா திராவிட முன்னேற்ற கழகத்தினுடைய முக்கியமான தலைவர்களையும் நானும் எங்கள் கட்சியினுடைய மத்திய குழு உறுப்பினர் முன்னாள் சட்டமன்ற பாலகிருஷ்ணன் அவர்களும் சந்தித்து மாநில முதலமைச்சர்களுக்கு அளிக்கக்கூடிய மருத்துவ சிகிச்சை பற்றி கேட்டறிந்தோம். மாநில முதலமைச்சர் அம்மையார் ஜெயலலிதா அவர்களுக்கு டெல்லியிலிருந்து வந்திருக்கக்கூடிய எய்ம்ஸ் மருத்துவமனை சார்ந்த மருத்துவ நிபுணர்களும் அப்போலோ மருத்துவ நிபுணர்களும் முதலமைச்சர்களுக்கு சிகிச்சை அளித்து வருகிறார்கள். தன்னுடைய வாழ்க்கையில் பல சோதனைகளை சந்தித்த மாநில முதலமைச்சர் அவர்கள் இந்த சோதனையில் வெற்றி பெறுவார், நிச்சயம் குணமடைவார். அவர் விரைவில் குணமடைய வேண்டும் என்று மார்க்சிஸ்ட் கம்யூனிஸ்ட் கட்சியின் சார்பாக எங்களுடைய வாழ்த்துக்களை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறோம். டீம் ஆஃப் எக்ஸ்பர்ட்ஸ், ஒரு மருத்துவ நிபுணர்கள் குழு முதலமைச்சர்களுக்கு சிறந்த சிகிச்சை அளித்து வருகிறார்கள். எல்லா முயற்சிகளையும் மேற்கொள்கிறார்கள். அவர் குணமடைவார் என்று மார்க்சிஸ்ட் கம்யூனிஸ்ட் கட்சியின் சார்பாக நாங்கள் நம்புகிறோம். எங்களுடைய வாழ்த்துக்களை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறோம். கண்டிப்பா மாண்பு நிதியமைச்சர் சந்திச்சு சிகிச்சை சம்பந்தமாக பல விவரங்களை நாங்கள் கேட்டறிந்தோம்.
Please move. Live. So there you had it, the statement that we just heard coming in at this point of time. Priyamvada, if you could just quickly take our viewers through what exactly was said vis-a-vis the health of Jayalalithaa.
Well, he just went in, Mr. Ramakrishnan, the CPM leader, who went in and he's saying that he's just wishing a speedy recovery, team of doctors who are taking care of her, and he wishes her a speedy recovery. RK, it's like we've got 14 health bulletins, I think, so far. Time and again, there is absolutely no clarity except for yesterday what we got at 9:25 p.m. about the cardiac arrest. Otherwise, there has been no clarity about the health bulletins that we have been getting.
Yeah, I think it has to more to do with the optimism that Apollo hospitals and more than that the state government had in the recuperative or whatever that faculties of Jayalalithaa, more than going by the medical reports. Initially, it appears that Apollo succumbed by saying that she was admitted for fever and dehydration. But I think that was a mistake. Much later, I think yesterday and today, they have been putting out releases which kind of reflected the real situation, which went from critical to very critical to grave. Now, I think in the first instance itself, Apollo could have done this or refused to put out press releases altogether and shoved the ball back into the government's comfort, which has not happened. Apollo has a lot of explaining to do. Also, the fact that she was not airlifted when there was an opportunity, there was a window of opportunity. In fact, angioplasty was suggested last week, as far as I know. Lot of ifs and buts. We can debate about these things, but then Apollo finally, at the end of the day, has a lot of explanation.
Let's get in a word from an expert, actually, Dr. M. Wali, joining us from the National Capital, who's been a former physician to a former president. Dr. Wali, how do you look at the situation of how Apollo has conducted itself over the past 2.5 months? Do you think that the adequate sort of information has come in from Apollo, and do you think there's any substance in the allegation that Apollo has on several occasions tried to hide or at least not properly represented the position as far as Jayalalitha's health is concerned?
No, there's not a word of hide. One should know, people should know, any information related to the medical treatment of any person is a confidential thing, and especially for the VVIP, it's a classified information. And even we do not discuss amongst the doctors that what is going on with the particular patient. So Apollo has not done any mistake by either not completely telling the details or by telling it in a different manner which appears wrong today. So Apollo has not done any mistake. No hospital is supposed to divulge the details unofficially or officially, except its official.
Right, but what about the course of treatment, sir? A lot of speculation about whether the course of treatment that has been followed. Of course, I know this is highly debatable, but do you think that appropriate treatment in terms of what conditions Jayalalithaa was facing had been given in retrospect?
Absolutely, all hospitals, whether it's a primary healthcare center or an Apollo hospital for that matter, always adequately treat all patients with the available resources, with what can be done in India, with the best team of doctors. If they don't have best team of doctors, they consult doctors abroad. It was done in her case. Also, the team, the government of India or some administration must have sent. They have sent a team from New Delhi, and also another team, I'm told, was sent. So the condition is not to be debated. It's everybody's fate. Everybody has to die. But when to die, how to die, this nobody knows. If we would know how to die, we would always prevent death. So human beings have very limited options to live.
Doctor.
When the time comes, we have to surrender to the nature. Doctors can do very little. And what doctors have, like she's put on extra corporeal device which works like a heart-lung machine, and an artificial heart has already been put in her body. So to have the best results.
Absolutely. Yeah, the doctor there was explaining about how much the doctors can do. I remember an article you had written tracing about what exactly had happened on 22nd of September, her medical history and how it's all related. If you could just throw us a bit of light about how it happened, considering her medical history, what kind of complications she developed.
See, in the first place, she had collapsed in her house, and that is the only reason they brought her to a hospital setup. Otherwise, she was not coming here at all. Apparently, she was a very bad patient, especially because she has had very high levels of diabetes, which was never under control for the longest time that we can think of. And once she collapsed and she was brought here, it was completely out of anybody's hands. Now, what happened before that? I mean, I hear that one of the relatives, who is a plastic surgeon, was the main caregiver. Now, the problem is that you can be a very efficient, very a plastic surgeon who has all the skills, but unfortunately you are a plastic surgeon. There are a lot of other things that go with diabetes and the kind of problems that Jayalalithaa has had, which you may not be competent about. But unfortunately, politicians also have this problem that you trust one doctor or maybe a couple of doctors, and that's it. You're not going to trust anybody else. Exactly what happened with Karunanidhi and his Dr. Gopal. Before, I mean, he was removed to the hospital, and it is really after close to a month of he's not getting well at home, and that's thanks to his doctor, Dr. Gopal. So I think the same thing is happening here too, wherein one doctor made all the calls, and even after she was admitted, the same thing continued. They resuscitated her at the ER, and after that she was sent to the CCU. Now, once she got into the multidisciplinary coronary care unit, we don't really have much of information, but we know for certain that the first few days she was actually speaking, in fact, and she was motioning with her hands. She was very aware of what was happening around her. The moment the first infection hit her, that is when things started going south. And that is exactly the point I keep coming back to. In a first world setting, in a Singapore, for instance, in US, for instance, she could have really, gone, this stage would not have been there in her treatment at all.
Well, that's an important question. Dr. Wali, do you agree with this statement that Radhakrishnan has made, that if this was perhaps a first world treatment that she had received, she would not have been in this condition, because clearly politicians also work at their whims and fancies, doctors who they are comfortable with when it comes to their health, thereby perhaps posing a risk to their health.
I have worked. No. I disagree with this. You see, everybody is a patient for the doctor, be it anybody. I was appointed by Mr. Venkatramana on this very sentence when he asked me, how would you treat me? I said, because every patient is to be treated like a patient. There is nothing like a VIP patient or non-VIP patient. Patient is a patient. What you should say, instead of bad patient, you should say she was a complicated patient. And there are a number of complications. Diabetes involves from the head to the toe. Everything in diabetes gets affected, be it kidney, be it heart, be it lungs, be it anything. So in a complicated case, it is difficult to manage a situation when you have so many people advising you. But the doctor should take a call. He should have his proper opinion kept frankly, openly, boldly, and very much openly. that this should be the treatment in my opinion. So this is very good. Whatever the Apollo has done after the consultation with the team of doctors. I just was objecting to VIP thing and the fussy patients and all these bad patient concept. No, sorry. Every patient has to be treated equally, same way, and we should not discriminate between the VIP patient and non-VIP patient. Sorry, I disagree. All patients I treat, be it a peon or be it an ambassador, I treat same way.
Right, interestingly, Radhakrishnan, Dr. Wali disagrees with you, and he says that it's not right to say so. There are complicated patients, but doctors have to be firm and take a stand. In your experience and from what you know, do the facts of what has happened over the last 2.5 months here in Chennai actually bear out what Dr. Wali is saying?
I will send her a politician as a patient, and I think she has to take it.
Dr. Wali, Radhakrishnan says that he will send a politician across as a patient to you, but you have already handled
most of the VIPs in town. No, not a problem. Yes. What is the question?
Well, yes, of course, handling VIPs is, of course, an important aspect. But also, one aspect, Radhakrishnan, if we can, look at what makes Jayalalitha's case quite different, is the fact that there's this huge amount of political pressure. Which other politician in this country would see these huge lines, these huge, massive queues? It's only a mass leader, and that to someone like Jayalalithaa, who could have, put on this kind of pressure, which perhaps even reflects as far as the treatment and pressure additionally on doctors, additional doctors being flown in from London, from AIIMS. That doesn't happen every day.
Absolutely. That is the other reason why she should not be here for treatment. I mean, it puts enormous amount of pressure on the doctors treating her, and it's absolutely not fair. And there are instances where, in fact, there is an interesting aside to this. There was an instance where Apollo thought that they should get some mileage out of this whole thing, and they wanted to put out the names of the doctors. Now, it so happened that we managed to know that this was happening, and somebody that I know spoke to Dr. Pratap Reddy, who was completely out, not in this loop at all, and he actually stopped putting out the names of the doctors, and he asked them, do you even realize what you're doing? If something goes south, you know what will happen to any of these doctors, and that is the problem. That is another reason she should not have been here at all. She should have been in Singapore at least. But then apparently the other reason is that the astrologer has told, not her, but people close to her, that she should not cross the seas.
Well, Dr. Wali, what do you have to say about this? Like, she could have got better treatment. Probably the pressure would have been less on the doctors if she was not here in India, because there is always pressure mounting on the doctors to treat, come out with results. But if she had been in a place like Singapore or US, probably she could have gotten a better treatment.
No, sorry. The cardiac emergency does not allow a patient to travel that long, but as you say, if the patient is a VVIP nature, I know Jayalalithaa ji is very important. She is a worshipped like goddess, and there are lots of fan following. That does not come in the way of treatment. And Apollo, I am repeatedly saying, is a well-reputed hospital who has branches in more than 9 countries. It is our whims and fancy. I repeatedly tell our doctors are best in the world. Our doctors are heading the cardiology department. Indian doctor is heading the department of cardiology in Mayo Clinic, which is one of the world's best center. Under my own stay there, an American doctor who was the head of the oncology division got operated himself by the Indian doctor at Mayo Clinic.
No, we are not discussing about the capability of the doctors here or about the Apollo hospitals. All that Radhakrishnan is trying to say is the pressure could have been less, and also the environment could have been probably better if she had been flown abroad. That's all. That's the point he's making.
Sorry. It could be a literally side of the story, but when I treat a patient, if I am under pressure, I would do lots of mistakes. So the pressure should not be taken on it should be taken on my heart, not in my brain. That's what I say. We have to treat patient when the patient is brought to us diligently, honestly, as per Hippocratic oath, to the best of our knowledge, leaving rest on the God. That's it.
Well, yes, and of course,
And in
an
no way
important
it should
aspect
have been
also has been that in this case, as far as Jayalalithaa is concerned, this doesn't happen every day. That not just the experts of Apollo, you can't just restrict this to Apollo. There is an entire panel coming in from AIIMS. We have Dr. Richard Beale, who is coming in from London. So that is, of course, also an added pressure certainly on the team to ensure that the best of medical opinion is taken, the best of treatment is given. But that too, at some level or the other, does add to the pressure as far as doctors and the team that is treating her, as well as her own political managers are concerned.
It is not the pressure, it's the getting a better opinion. Why do you call it a pressure? If I have my boss advising me, Dr. Wali, do like this, I would not take it my pressure on my head. I would take as a sane advice coming to me to help me to discharge my duty. Why is the word pressure is coming? I don't know. We are not taught these ethics. If two teams are advising me, they are helping me. They are not mounting pressure on me. Sorry. This is a you should discuss the diagnosis. It's probably a case of cardiac arrest or cardiac disease. Okay, underlying cardiac disease, she collapsed. Investigation of the cause of collapse. Then you find out the coronary artery disease. Then you manage the coronary artery disease either conservatively or by operation, by stent. In this case now, they have to put an ECMO device, which is a device which works like a heart plug machine or artificial heart elements world, or they could implant a cardiovascular defibrillator. So these are the various stages of treatment. I have a patient who has got 18% ejection fraction who comes walking to my room every third day. He's alive. So God is kind, God is great. If we trust in God, we don't have to save our
activity happening. We
Apollo,
have to interrupt you here.
Saying has been doing its best.
Dr. Wali, sorry, we have to interrupt you here. There is some activity happening here. You can happening here. That's the Chennai police commissioner who has just left from the Apollo hospitals. George has just stepped out from the Apollo hospitals. He's been here since yesterday evening, Madhav, and he is the one who has been planning all the security arrangements, and he's just leaving the Apollo hospitals. That's the latest bit of information we are getting. In fact, coming back to the health condition of ADMK Supremo Jayalalithaa, of course, Dr. Wali completely disagrees, saying that they cannot be, the doctors cannot be bowed down by pressure. But how does it exactly work in a party like ADMK? Considering the close aides of Jayalalithaa, who takes the call, who took the call, how does it happen?
See, in the case of Jayalalithaa, it is completely unique because she is estranged from her next of kin, and because of that, of course, she doesn't have next of kin, so to speak. Because of that, the chief secretary is the person who is her guardian, has signed all her papers till today. So that is Jayalalitha's case. But I have seen n number of cases of politicians, a simple LASIK laser surgery being messed up in Chennai. I have seen a politician's wife, she fell down and her shoulder was supposed to be fixed, in one of the prominent hospitals. That was messed up. See, the pressure does a lot of things to people. Of course, there are genuine mistakes that happen to doctors. Doctors are human. We don't deny that at all. But beyond that, when it is a senior politician, I have seen time and again there are innumerable instances of things going south, and that has to do a lot with the doctor knowing who exactly the patient is. That comes in the way of the doctor's judgment. He might exactly end up taking 3-4 more opinions and all that. I don't think that it is conducive, and that is why somebody like Sonia Gandhi flew to New York.
Yes, and also one important question. In the case of Jayalalithaa, now it's quite clear. I mean, there have been statement after statement that's come out through the course of the day today that she is on life support, and the kind of position that she is in following this cardiac arrest. She is, of course, she could perhaps continue for days, perhaps for weeks, perhaps for months, perhaps for years in this kind of a position. Obviously, important calls will now have to be taken, which could be completely crucial, in determining where she goes on and how her health, whether it goes up whether it goes down, whether any kind of procedure has to be conducted. Now, will all these calls be taken by the Chief Secretary, or do you think someone like Shashikala, who's been a close aide of hers, is now, of course, looking at perhaps a General Secretary post within the party? Do you think those calls could be perhaps taken in consultation with Shashikala or Sheila Balakrishnan or O. Pannirselvam? Who's calling the shots here?
Yeah, there is a subtle difference. I said Chief Secretary signs because she's a ward of the state. But that's just when it comes to signing papers. But the calls are being taken by somebody who's this plastic surgeon. And that is the essential problem. That was what was happening for the first few days. And then you had this AIIMS team and Dr. Beale coming in. And now, subsequently, there has been a team of doctors who have been making calls and presenting options to both Shashikala and this plastic surgeon, and they've been debating long over it. But I think they do have a relatively free hand, but I believe by then it was too late. I think it was by October, soon after the governor came and went, I think October 2nd or 3rd, that is the time that I think the team of doctors started making all decisions.
But even a week back, Pratap C. Reddy and even Dr. Richard Beale sounded very confident. Many press conferences were given in which they said she's recovering. It's just she has to decide the discharge time. What was that all about?
Yeah, there is definitely an improvement. There was, I would say, significant improvement. But unfortunately, these are not linear events. You don't progress from being, 10% all right to 20% all right to 30% all right. You can progress all the way to 90% and then sink completely. That is the whole problem with being in an ICU setup. Even though she was moved out to another room, which is the labor ward, but that is also an ICU setting. They've created complete ICU settings there. And what has happened there is that the exact same thing. I mean, you just one day of relapse is one bad day is all that requires to send everything down south.
In fact, that's exactly what Richard Beale also had given in a statement, saying that the possible relapse and the infection is very much possible.
Yes, and if I can also toss back to Dr. Wali. Dr. Wali, we're also talking about a position here where Jayalalithaa was looking at not one or two, but multiple organs where she had complications. And when you're talking about, of course, complicated patients,
Yes.
Even physically, the kind of complications that she had from diabetes to perhaps heart disease to her lung infections, several such aspects that were complicated, which really makes the recovery of any such person that much more difficult, isn't it?
Yes, when the hospital has thought to send her home with the possible recovery, this story is part one. But the second time admission can be very well classified as the severe cardiac event, which can happen only even in a normal person or a person having a long-standing valvular heart disease, coronary artery disease, other diseases, even a sports person. You may recall one General Joshi, who was chief of army staff. He collapsed in the golf field one fine morning at 9:30. His always medical examination was routinely done. So what caused sudden cardiac death? We don't know sometimes. It's an idiopathic cause. Also, we doctors are in a dilemma at times that what could have caused. Usually, it is the cardiac arrhythmia in which the heart behaves haywire, and the rhythm of the heart is not sufficient to pump the blood to the brain, and that is the cause of sudden cardiac death, usually defined within an hour of the event. That kept in mind, all the options which were available at Apollo hospitals were kept open.
Right, Dr. Wali, I'd like to thank you as well as Radhakrishnan for joining us on this broadcast with Priyamvada and me. And that's about all the time we have on this show. Time now for a short break. News at 9 coming up right after this.